Devin Booker could be another piece that Charlotte could add, and he'd be a great pick. I think overall Devin Booker has a lot of upside. The downside is that he's young, may take a couple years to develop, but once he develops, I think he could turn out into a pretty good player. At number 8, Detroit has Stanley Johnson, the freshman out of Arizona. I picked Arizona to win the national championship, and Stanley Johnson was one of the reasons why. He's 6'7", 242 pounds, a small forward. So he is really one of the most athletic players in this draft, right behind Justice Winslow, who I have a little bit higher up on this board. What you're getting in Stanley Johnson is an athletic small forward. He can do it all. He can shoot. He can rebound. He's physical. He can drive to the basket, and he has a lot of potential defensively because of that frame, because of that 6'7" frame. So for Detroit, a team that overall, I think they are a team that's on the rise. I think once they got rid of Josh Smith, once he went over to Houston, they played pretty well. So I'm interested to see how Stanley Johnson would fit in this team. The Detroit culture lately, the last couple of years since those runs to the Eastern Conference Finals in the early 2000s, they really haven't been a team to talk about. But I think adding a Stanley Johnson, and with the coach like Stan Van Gundy, who's not just the head coach but is running the front office, I think that this is a really good piece for Detroit moving forward. At number 7, Denver has Emmanuel Mudiay, who was supposed to play down at SMU last season but didn't and decided to go play up in China. He was one of the most hyped high school players last season. He played against Julio Okafor and played pretty well. He's a 6'5" point guard, and one of the things about him is that he could stroke. He's just one of the natural athletes in this draft. One of the problems is that because he played in China, there really isn't. They feel that maybe it's not that great. So maybe he may be a little overrated. But I mean, coming out of high school, he was pretty good. I think it's either. I mean, let's be honest. I think Mudiay is as much of a risk as the international players that are going to be a little bit above this board. But for me, Mudiay at Denver, I think that's a solid pick. I mean, Ty Lawson's still there, but I think Mudiay can develop into that point guard. It's going to take him a while, maybe a couple of years to develop into that point guard that Denver needs. But I think for 7, it's a good pick because most draft boards have him top 5. So if he falls down here, I think for 7, it's about a good value pick. Moving on to number 6, you have Mario Hezonja from who played over in Barcelona, and he's 6'8", 200 pounds. He's a combo guard, small forward. It's funny because a lot of these international players, there hasn't been a lot to talk about, but for Mario, there's a lot of hype with this guy. His ability to shoot, he can slash to the basket. He has a lot of upside defensively, and his physical tools are great for the position. I mean, 6'8" shooting guard, that's really good. The only risk is essentially, again, he played an international. So, he played over in Barcelona last year. So realistically, how good is that competition? Again, that's always been one of the big questions. So we're going to find out with Sacramento what type of player they get. So I don't know if Sacramento is a great team that could develop him. I feel like if he went a little bit later, I feel like if he went to maybe a Miami or maybe Indiana, again, if he was able to fall that far, then potentially he'd be able to develop a little bit more. But because he's going to a team like Sacramento, who in the last couple of years hasn't been as great, and I feel like that team culture hasn't been as great. George Karl's a great coach, don't get me wrong, but I feel like I'm not sure that he's going to develop properly there. But again, that's just my opinion. At number 5, the Orlando Magic have Justice Winslow, the freshman out of Duke. He is one of the most athletic players. Again, Stanley Johnson and Justice Winslow are two of the most athletic players in this draft. 6'7", 222 pounds. And for Winslow, he was just as important as Jahlil Okafor last year. His overall strength is ridiculous. He has offensive versatility. He has a natural feel for the game. His defense is amazing, and the intangibles we saw in the national championship game are huge. So, out of this entire draft, the best pick probably could be Justice Winslow. I think the best possible player to come out of this draft could be Winslow. There's so much upside with this guy. He's so mature for his age. And overall, I think this is a great pick for the Magic. Again, they're a team that's continued to develop since Dwight Howard left. One pick at a time, and this is another pick going in the right direction. At number 4, New York Knicks have a player who, again, international player. There's a lot of hype with this guy. Kristaps Porzingis. He's 7 foot, 230 pounds. There are two types of comparisons that I've heard for what this guy can be. He could be a Darko Milicic, who we all know was a bust, but others have said he has the potential to be a Dirk Nowitzki type. Now, for New York, international players have been a little bit more challenging to deal with the last couple of years. But when you say potential like Dirk Nowitzki, that says a lot. That says that, again, if he develops into that Dirk Nowitzki type of player, then that is definitely the steal of the draft. Again, stats maybe don't mean so much. I mean, he played 50 games, 11 points, 4 rebounds. The numbers don't mean so much. Euroball is a totally different game. But can those skills translate? He could shoot from the outside. He doesn't defend as well, but he has those Dirk Nowitzki type skills that, again, if he hones into them, maybe we could see something really good coming out of New York. So now, of course, we're going to go to the top 3 picks, starting with number 3. The Philadelphia 76ers, according to DraftExpress.com, have D'Angelo Russell out of Ohio State. I actually got to watch this guy live in the NCAA tournament when the Ohio State Buckeyes played VCU in the opening round. And again, VCU has always been a team that once you get to the tournament, it's hard to pick against them because of their ability to play team defense. But D'Angelo Russell, you could see, was by far the best player on the floor watching him live. And one of the things about him is that he has the ability to take over a game. Again, his physical tools for a point guard, he's 6'5", he's a little under 200 pounds, but again, a 6'5" point guard, that's awesome. And then, of course, his ability to score. He was able to score over a VCU team that was very disciplined at will. So that's going to be huge for a 76er team that really doesn't have a true point guard. They traded away Michael Carter-Williams to Milwaukee. So getting Russell, huge. And, of course, his passing instincts. 5 assists a game as a freshman. That's great. And, of course, his swagger. When you have a franchise guy, I don't care, you have to have some sort of ego. And D'Angelo Russell, you may love him, you may hate him, but he has that swagger and he has that ability to carry a team, which is what I like about him and why I think Philadelphia has a great chance to get him at number 3. Now, of course, the top 2 picks, Karl-Anthony Towns or Jahlil Okafor. For number 2, the Lakers have Okafor. We've heard a lot of talks maybe the last 24, 48 hours of DeMarcus Cousins going over there from Sacramento. But a lot of reports are saying that maybe it's probably not going to happen because the owner doesn't want to trade Cousins. So let's assume that they don't get Cousins. Okafor, you know what you're going to get with this guy. He's a double-double guy, almost 7 foot, little over 270 pounds. His physical tools are incredible. You know what you're going to get with this guy. That's a safe pick for the Lakers at number 2, building around a center. Again, we're looking towards the future with LA because we know Kobe's going to be off the books next year. again, assuming that the trade with Cousins doesn't work, how many free agents are really going to come to LA? I don't know. So for Okafor to not have a lot of pressure in LA his first season, again, I don't think he's going to have a lot of pressure because, let's be honest, I would expect the Lakers to make the playoffs next year and maybe the year after that. So this will give a chance for Okafor to develop into that type of player where maybe he can be a superstar. Um, I don't know if he will be a superstar, but I think he has the potential to be at least a double-double guy, which is always great in the league. Um, and especially for a 7-footer. It's hard to find true centers nowadays because the league is turning into more athletic wing players and fewer type uh, bang around the rim centers. So, but with Okafor, again, he's that type of player, and that's going to be huge for the Lakers, especially scoring on the interior where they were very consistent last season. And of course, finally, number one pick, Karl Anthony Towns out of Kentucky, 7 foot, 250 pounds. It's funny because last season you really didn't get to see a lot of what Karl Anthony Towns is capable of, just because they had a plethora of awesome freshmen. So he really didn't get to show off what he is truly capable of. In high school, apparently, according to some reports anyway, he's able to shoot from the outside, no problem. So for that type of player, who again was a bang around the basket type of player, similar to Okafor, that has that type of ability that we haven't seen yet, that could shoot from the outside, that's fantastic. The fact that he could score at will, that's amazing. His passing ability for a center, that's great. And of course, the defensive potential is phenomenal. He is just as versatile. Him and Willie Cauley-Stein were some of the most versatile big men I've seen in college basketball in a really long time. And just the upside in general. One GM, at least one higher up executive, said that they've compared him to Tim Duncan. Ooh. I mean, that's saying something. That's definitely saying a lot to the potential of what Karl Anthony Towns can be. If he can be a Tim Duncan, wow. I mean, then this draft is maybe even better than I thought. But he's not really good at one thing in particular. He's not great. He's just really good across the board. But if he turns out to be great in maybe one or two areas, then that number one pick for Minnesota, maybe it could be that value pick. And Minnesota's a team that I could see on the rise. Again, may not make the playoffs next season, but they may make some noise late in the season. Again, if everything falls together, if they're all healthy, they maybe even get a player in a trade, they could maybe squeak into that number 8 spot in the West, just like New Orleans did last season. I doubt it, but it'd be kind of interesting to see Minnesota, who hasn't really been competitive in about 10, 11 years. It'd be nice to see them kind of back in the playoffs and kind of in the mix. Other picks really that are great. For the Pacers at 11, they have Willie Cauley-Stein. Again, he's one of the most athletic and just naturally gifted centers. He needs to improve his scoring, I think. He's not going to be, again, he may not be a player that can score. He may be like a Tristan Thompson, where he's just going to be getting those offensive rebounds and create second chances for Indiana. I think if they pick him, they're definitely going to be in the playoffs. Last season, again, they didn't have Paul George due to injury. And if he can improve his mid-range jumper, I think Willie Cauley-Stein could be a really good pick at 11. Going down the board, Cameron Payne from Oklahoma City. Again, he's from Murray State, a sophomore. That's an interesting pick. R.J. Hunter, the junior out of Georgia State. We all know Georgia State, that Cinderella story. R.J. Hunter is a really good player. Again, just because he came out of Georgia State doesn't mean he's a bad player. Again, he was in the top 150 players coming out of high school, and he could go anywhere. The reason why he went to Georgia State was to play for his dad. So I mean, it would be pretty nice to see him carve out a pretty good career. Bobby Portis to Boston. He's a sophomore out of Arkansas, 6'11", 250 pounds. He has a really good motor and a feel for the game, offensive versatility. I got to see him in a couple games, especially against Kentucky. He was fantastic. Tyus Jones to the Rockets would be really good for a value pick at 18. Again, he plays a really good point guard position. His confidence, his point guard skills, pick and roll abilities, they're really good. That or Jerian Grant would be really good picks for the Rockets. because just because they really didn't have a consistent point guard. Um, Last season, Patrick Beverly